One. Hey, how's everybody doing today? We're back for another episode of Coffee Talk with Brohawk, and I'm very excited about this particular episode. We have Dragatsis on with us, serial entrepreneur, um, does a lot in the call in the contact center world as far as uh, home medical equipment. And with that, Jim, welcome. Uh, Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, Mark, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be on Brohawk today. It's been a long time coming. I know that we've communicated over the years, and it's finally great to be on the show. I appreciate that. As you said, I'm in the HME space. It's a niche market in what I do. It's contact center, call center related, but people that have sleep apnea. I call their patients, the DME's patients, and we go through compliance and also place orders for them that they're allowable for. This business is something that's really near and dear to me. I've been doing it for, over 15 years now. And so it's also something that helps people, right? So at the end of the day, it's helping people. So, it's good all around for me.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. Now, how long has Beyond HME been in business?
So we started this business in January, but if you roll back the clock, originally I was part of a DME in Chicago. I was the COO. We ran that business, and basically we were providing equipment and supplies for people that were being discharged out of the hospital. One of the components was CPAPs, and out of that, there was a need to contact the patients after they received the equipment, and every 90 days they're eligible for a resupply. And so we were doing that in-house, and it was very antiquated. And we saw the opportunity, myself, to see that calling made a better impact in connection rates and all of that with the actual patients. So I carved that out into a niche business. I left the DME, which ended up becoming my first customer. And we created a company called All Call Connect. And what that was, it was basically patient outreach to those CPAP resupply patients, and then offering them advice on how to use their equipment if they had any questions or anything, making sure they were using it, and then also resupplies. So every 90 days, they're eligible for cushions and pillows and headgear and things of that nature. And so when we started that, we saw that the connection rate, I should say, traditional IVR systems were garnering maybe 23%. Well, we're seeing upwards of 50+% in connecting with the patient. So immediately we knew we had something there. And so when I started All Call Connect, we ran that business for 4 years. And then I was approached by the manufacturer, ResMed, and then the software side, SaaS side, Brightree, to actually purchase the business. And so they acquired the business in 2017. So in that 4-year time, we grew the business to 500,000 patients under our guidance. And we had over 200 something employees at the time. Everything rolled into Brightree. It became basically Brightree Live Call, which it is today. I stayed on as president for 4 years. And then, it's time for me to kind of move on. And then I retired. And in that year of retirement, you can only do so much golf and boating and things of that nature. I had previous customers calling me, kind of giving me an update on where their business was. I had a lot of really good relationships with my customers. And so I kept in touch with them. And then I decided in January of this year that there was still a need, and I could come back into the industry, being out a year, and we hit the ground running.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's one of the things. One of the things you just mentioned. You have a lot of great customers that you've worked with in the past, and one of the things that I noticed through some of the social media stuff that I see with you is you're very engaged with your customer base. It's not a transactional relationship, and
No.
that's one of the things that as a professional I really admire about you, and you put it out there. You have confidence in your relationships, and a lot of companies won't do that. So,
I don't bring it, it's a corporation, right? So I sold to a corporation, but everything I've done has really been on my own in a sense.
mhm.
And really the benefit I get out of growing a business, a lot of people will say, you start a business and you want to make some money
Yep.
and all of those things. But my mom said a long time ago, the more you want the money, the more you're never going to get it. It's really about
Hmm.
being passionate about what you do and enjoying what you do and helping people. And out of that, everything else falls in line. And I kind
Yes.
of always have that approach. A lot of times, large corporate about numbers, and it's about, especially if they're public, they're reporting to Wall Street, and it's about the numbers. So my whole life has always been outside of that, because I never really wanted to get to a point where it all became about the numbers. And I think that
Yes.
transcends into relationships with customers. When they know, I always tell customers, my success is your success is mine. I cannot be successful unless you are. If not, I'm not doing my job correctly, and we're of no use to you. So really, it's
Yes.
a partnership. We are truly partners. We're in it together. And this goes from starting out with small HMEs that really, they're navigating through and they're turning something over to you that they've done for years. And it's a very scary experience for a lot of them, all the way up to
Mhm.
corporations that have, 250,000 patients they want to give to us. So those two unique, customers are very unique and very, very different. And so you have to manage those relationships the same way. And that's one of the
Yes.
most important things I think I've learned through this.
And one of the things that you just said also is size doesn't matter. It doesn't matter
No.
if it's a small organization or a much larger organization. You got to treat the customer the same.
We built the business early on with smaller customers that really needed our help, and we
Yep.
partnered with them, and they became the best referral sources, for us. And whenever we had larger customers that wanted to talk to customers that were current, we felt really, really good about talking to any of our customers, in all
Yes.
honesty. And we said, ask them the tough questions, ask them, anything you want to ask them, you ask them. We have full transparency in what we do. And with that, a lot of the larger customers then started to come aboard and realize that, we were the real deal.
Excellent. Excellent. Now, Jim, as somebody that started a couple of different businesses, um, I'd call you a serial entrepreneur. I mean, you just can't sit on the sidelines for too long. Um, how has organizational culture for you really impacted the success of your businesses?
Well, one of the things I always say, and I always said to my people, is basically, in every Christmas party, I used to say this. I'd get up and I'd say, I had the idea and the money, and you guys run the business. And they do. I couldn't have done it without all of the people in the organization. Culture is such an important thing to me. It's the actual fun part of the business, to be honest with you. Being
Yes.
able to bring people together, give them a decent and an honest wage that they can actually survive on, and not just survive, but they can flourish on. They have opportunity for advancement, promotion. Getting into an organization that's just a job doesn't benefit anybody. In the long run, an employee that's not happy at what they're doing, it transcends to the customer, and they're going to get the same experience, and the customer is going to end up not being happy as well. But when I got into this, it was really about culture for me. So finding the best people, the people that
Hmm.
really fit within that culture, it's really important, right? And so they have to have empathy. You can teach people, anything about how to use a computer or a software or all of that. For the most part, they have the aptitude, general aptitude. You can teach them anything, but you cannot teach somebody to have empathy or be a good person or be a kind person, or you just can't teach that. It's innate, right? And
Yes.
so identifying that, our goal was to find the right people to build that culture, and we put a lot of time and effort. I always say, we would interview 100 people and maybe hire one. And it's nothing against all those other people, and a lot of them had such technical capabilities, but we really were looking for that person that possessed the empathy, really, which is what we need for to be customer success.
You know, it's interesting. When I talk to folks about technology, as an example, um, or looking at a potential employer, I always say that not every company is the right fit for what you're trying to bring to the table for them. Whether that's human capital or technology or whatever it is. And I wholeheartedly agree with you with not every company is going to be the right fit for every applicant. And I think you're doing them a I think you're doing a person a disservice bringing somebody on just to fill a seat that you know is going to struggle a little bit with you don't want them to struggle once they get in the door. You want to see them become as successful as possible. So
Yeah, and on that note, Mark, to be honest with you, I'm not giving them all the tools and the training that they need. That's on me. I'm the
yeah,
one that really is dictates their success at that point. And if I've done everything and I've given them everything and it's still just not the right fit, then the realization is it wasn't the right fit. And we've done that many times, but we do
yeah.
it with dignity and respect. And
Hmm.
if you actually show them really the reasoning why they're probably not a good fit and not just cutting them off and saying, you know what, today's your last day or it's not working out or whatever, that helps them personally too. And I think personal
Exactly.
success is just as important as professional.
I love that. I love that. What are some of the foundational must-haves for an organization that you think are just must-haves as a business owner?
Well, I think the people in the business that I'm in, we're in. Obviously, it's all people, right? They
Yep.
drive the business. It's when you're in a call center, that's what it is. Technology is important. It's ever advancing. We embrace it, but at
Hmm.
the end of the day, it really is right down to the people. So hiring and the right people to do the job. I don't micromanage. I don't believe in that.
Hmm.
I'm not going to hire you and then tell you how to do your job or consistently, you know monitor you in those ways, because then it's wasting my time. I didn't hire
Yes.
you to monitor you. And so I put a lot of stock in the people and I have a lot of expectations, but I clearly define those expectations from the beginning, from the onset. But really building the right team to me is crucial. And I did that again in January when I started the business. Ironically enough, my very first employee,
Hmm.
Kim, who actually started out as my office manager when I started All Call Connect. When
Okay.
I retired, January 1, I announced I was starting the new business. January 2nd, she called me and said, "Can I be your first employee again?" And I said, "Absolutely." So she came over, came aboard. She hit the ground running. I'm proud of her where she's at because she's done so much and grown so much in the organization. And she's been with me for over 10 years. So,
Yes.
dedication is very important to me. I believe in that. And I also believe that, you have to spread the wealth. You have to take care of the people that are taking care of the business. And that's an important piece. So going back to your original question, I have one answer about.
That's awesome. Yeah, everything starts with people and being able to optimize the talent. Uh, wherever that talent may lay.
Yeah, and
I love.
on that note, it starts at the top, right? So I can only do so much, right?
Yep.
My asset is that I build the relationships with the customers, and that's what I do. I build the business that way. But under me, our COO, Margaret Linskog, who also started the business with me back then. So a lot of these people have carried on with me.
Yes.
Um, she oversaw everything on operational, and I trusted her, and I had to give her that trust. And
Hmm.
so, really, that foundation starts at the top, and then you work your way down to all the different levels, down to the caller, and constant communication. I'm the president of the company, but I do town halls with all of the callers. I want them to know the progress of the business, how we're doing. They have to have ownership in it, and I allow them to really have an inside look at really who they're working for, what our common goal is.
Jim, something just popped into my head. What your basic expectation isn't blind loyalty to you as a company, but it's earned loyalty to a place that your employees want to be at, as
Absolutely,
opposed
I
to where
want
they
them
have
to
to be.
want to work there.
Yes, that's awesome. That's awesome. Let's pivot a little bit into customer experience because obviously in any contact center environment, CX is a big piece of it. What data do you look at as a business owner to determine the effectiveness of your company's CX? And what data, because there's a call centers have data out the wazoo.
Yeah,
What's the good data and what's the noise data that
sure.
you tend to look at?
So I always say there's a difference between customer service and customer success, right? And customer engagement. And so, the customer service aspect is the day-to-day operational things that happen within the relationship. But really, customer success comes first, because if you haven't established a relationship and you understand that customers' needs and you've done your due diligence and understanding their business, which is really important, you're never going to really get that customer service side down, because you don't know the business as well, and then your agents don't know the business. So really, I start with the customer success, the engagement, and really develop the relationship. And I ask the customer, tell me what your pain points are, tell me what your needs are, what's your current provider not providing for you. And you would be astonished at the answers you get. And I will tell you, being back in the business from this year and being out a year, the number one thing the customers are telling me loudly is communication. They just don't listen. They don't communicate. We'll send an email. We don't hear back from them for a week, or they have to talk to somebody to get the answer. All of those things. And I look at that and go, gosh, that's the simplest thing. You got to be there for the customer. Okay. So the relationships have always been so important to me. And it's not just a business relationship. I want to be able to connect with somebody on a personal level and understand them better. Because when you understand how somebody ticks, you know what you're dealing with. And then you can also understand a little bit of where they're coming from. Sure, it's easy to have happy customers, but then when the difficult times happen, or customers are upset about something, being able to navigate through that is the true relationship. And that's like in your personal life, right? It's the
Yes.
same thing. It's like a marriage in many regards. It's really about understanding and getting through those tough times with the customer, and that you're on the same page. That really is the most important thing. From there, everything else really kind of falls in line. But really, the customer success is the most important part of the business.
I love that. I love that.
And back to your data
Understanding, listen.
question,
Yep.
data is important. I agree that data is important, but really it's what you do with that data, right? Because you can spout out all kinds of data and all of that, but it's what's important to the customer. If you're sitting
Mhm.
there and you're talking about analytics and data, and you're just throwing this out at the customer, and the customer has told you, that's great, I think we're doing well, but really I'm more concerned about the call agents and the customer success side of it, okay, and the patient
Yep.
care, and the way the agents are talking to the patients, and it sounds like a sales call, and it sounds like this, and then you keep spouting out data, you're not listening to the customer. And no matter how compelling that data is, they don't care. They want you to fix what they're asking you to fix. And I've seen it time and time again, where
Mhm.
people just really kind of think that they can tell the customer what their success is, rather than really listening to what is important to the customer.
And I'm glad you went back to that, because I was kind of glad that you didn't answer directly, so to speak, the whole data question, because you're right. A lot of the data is just noise out there, and they're data points that make people feel good about where they were versus where they are. And you know, if you're not listening, if you're not communicating, if you're not doing something with all of the noise that's out there, and being able to hone in on what their core problems are, then all
Absolutely.
the data out there doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, and
So
data is relevant at the right time in the right situation. But managing a customer through data is not going to foster a great relationship. Because guess
yeah,
what, too? Once that data plummets, then what do you have? Right?
exactly.
We can say that,
Yeah.
hey, we were performing great and this month was terrible. And here's what happened: allowables changed, or this happened, or whatever.
Mhm.
But you know what? Your customer service and your agents are top notch. It's been fantastic. The patients, the feedback's been amazing, and all of that. Without that, none of the data matters.
The storytelling is so key, to move a relationship from being transactional to a partnership.
Absolutely.
Um, So how do you see or identify customer effort, in how you design and develop the experiences, for your not just your customers but your customers' customers?
Sure. So, I'll start with one of the things that I don't do is I don't take on every customer. I'm very
Okay.
particular on who we do business with, right?
Yep.
In the old days, I'd always say, yeah, you know what? I'm never going to do business with somebody that I can't sit down and have a beer with. you know, and there's some truth to that. But,
Yes.
personalities are very important. And again, one thing I never do is I don't buy business. I don't believe in that.
Hmm.
Your offering and your product and your services. I don't compete on that arena. So if I have customers that come to me and say, well, I'm getting this from our current whatever provider, I need you to be, under that or whatever. If I can't explain the difference between that customer or that, competitor and myself,
Uh-huh.
and why I am sticking to what I charge and what I do, then they're not the right customer, or I haven't conveyed it properly. So that's one thing that I will not do. And I never have, and I don't intend on doing that. No matter what the circumstances are, I feel confident enough in providing the best service out there, and that's really important for us. And so, with that, with the customers that come to us, it's really about listening and doing the due diligence. At the end of the day, I want to know exactly what it is that they're looking for. And when you get involved with customers that say, well, we do it this way, well, you didn't come to me for me to do it exactly the way you're doing it, because we're not going to get anywhere. So
Yes.
you have to navigate through that customer and see if they're the right fit. Taking on any customer to increase the top line or whatever of your business inevitably is going to come back at you, because they are going to be the most difficult, and rightfully so. You didn't do your due diligence and really understand who that customer that you were taking on really was. So I've seen it happen time and time again, and I will not run a business on the top line.
I love it. I love it. And that's why you've been so successful with all the businesses that you've been involved in.
I'd like to think so, to be honest with
Yep.
you. Sure, have I turned down really, really big pieces of business or whatever? But in the end of the day, I sleep at night just fine, because I know what goes along with that. So
Yep.
I feel that we've done the right thing.
Excellent. Excellent. Um, we've gotten to the point of our conversation, Jim. We call it the speed round. Are you ready for this?
I sure am.
Excellent. Excellent. So, like we've talked about, you've had a very successful career, professional career. I'm particularly interested in in your thoughts on this particular phrase. At this stage in my career, I wish I can go back in time and tell my younger self. And how would this have helped you navigate your career differently or better, or what are your thoughts there?
So I think, as you grow older in maturity, especially in business, you definitely learn things in many ways. Some ways the hard ways, some way things come easy. Sometimes you're lucky. I think all of those things are very important in business, to be honest with you. There's a lot of luck involved in business, and that translates into timing in many ways, right? What I would say is, if I look back at my younger self, I would ask myself to listen more and be more
Uh-huh.
patient. I think, you're eager, you're young. I look at, I have a nephew that's in the business that, he started out with me and he's grown his career, but I see the energy and the excitement, and it's now, everything's now. And no, but you don't understand. I think sitting back, and if I had listened a little bit more, and
Uh-huh.
taken that in, and thought about things a little bit more rather than shooting from the hip, who knows where things would be today. But we can't change that. We can only learn from that. And so I do try to listen a lot more these days and be more patient. I'm not a very patient person in many ways, but I'm working on it.
I love it. I was having a conversation with my 5-year-old daughter, uh, and she's like, "I know everything that there is to know because I'm a kindergartner." And I'm like, "No, you never stop learning, and we'll get into these conversations." And so I love the fact that hey, continual learning, and
Absolutely.
patience and whatnot. Um, so, what fact about you would people be most surprised to learn about?
Well, I'm actually a trained chef. After college, I went to chef school.
Really?
Our family was in the restaurant business, and I spent my summers working in the restaurant. I loved it. And I always say that the best education I ever got was in the restaurant business, because
Okay.
you have the gamut of everything from psychology to customer service to financial. You learn everything, because that if you can make it in the restaurant business, I honestly think you can make it anywhere in any industry. I think it's the real MBA when it comes to business, to be honest with you. Street smart goes a long way. No
Yes.
disrespect for all those high-paid MBAs out there, but I'll tell you what, I'll take street smarts any day. But yeah, I went to chef school. I can cook. I continue to cook. I love to cook. I worked in some really, really good restaurants. I was fortunate enough to work for Rich Melman from Let Us Entertain You in Chicago for many years. And I learned more, just really not even about the restaurant business, but about life in dealing with customers at that level. And I think that really is surprising to people that I, number one, can cook. And that, I owned restaurants in Chicago. I had a restaurant for years in Chicago, and I loved that. I love that business. I still do. And
Yes.
out of that, as you said, I do have other things. I co-own a sauce manufacturing business,
Okay.
commercial for contract food service, and we've had that business for about 13 years now. It's also very successful. So I'm not
Nice.
completely out of that side of the business. I always said two things that are somewhat recession proof are healthcare and people got to eat. So I focused on those two industries.
And so I got to ask, the sauce business, is it your recipe or?
Well, it actually started out, my business partner, Sandeep Malhotra, he's Indian. So it started out with his family
Okay.
recipes. And our first line of sauces were Indian, all natural,
Okay.
clean label, very unique, restaurant quality. And so, I'm 100% Greek, but we have not ventured into that. But we have pretty much everything else aside from Mediterranean, I guess.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So what's your favorite dish to cook?
You know what? I was French classically trained. I love French cuisine. So
Okay.
anything with cream sauce in it is all me.
Awesome. Awesome. So after a stressful day, what's your go-to tactic to unwind?
That's a great question, right? You know what? I'm a Pisces, right? So I mean, I'm not big into astrology, but I got to be near the water. My whole life, I've
Yeah.
always been drawn to the water. For me, it's a calming experience. And it's funny because it's really about how you start your day. So I walk on the beach pretty much every morning. I live on Siesta Key, which is a beautiful place, surrounded by the Gulf of Mexico. And the beach is right down the street. So I try to get up and
Yeah.
walk 5 miles every morning on the beach, and that clears my head. That gets me ready for the day. And I think it's kind of ahead of it. So by the end of the day, I've already started out kind of in a kind of a Zen way. And if I have a stressful day, then you know what? A lot of times I'll jump on my boat and I'll go out there and just kind of sit out there in the Gulf and kind of just take it all in. But for me, that's really the calming thing for me to do.
Oh man, that is awesome. I love the water myself. So as a fellow Pisces,
There you
uh,
go.
so now it all makes sense for me. So, um, so if someone wants to engage with you, more after this episode, want to talk a little bit more about your leadership philosophy, some of the successes or pitfalls that you may have experienced in building your businesses, the HME business, or just generally just wants to chat with you because
Sure.
they think you're a really relatable guy, which you are. How should they go ahead and contact you?
Absolutely. I welcome people to talk to me anytime. I try to give, advice as I can, and I also try to listen to what people have to say. My email is probably the best way. It's my J, my last name, Dragatsis at beyondhme.com. I'm also on LinkedIn. A lot of people will contact me via LinkedIn. So that's usually probably the best route is through LinkedIn or my email, to be honest with you. My
Fantastic.
phone's going to go into voicemail pretty 95% of the time.
As
But I
most
will
of
call
ours
you
do.
back. I will call you back, as you know.
Yes. Jim, this has been a great conversation. I really appreciate the time you took out of your schedule today to be a guest on this episode. And if anybody watching this really likes the content, please subscribe to the Brohawk Solutions Coffee Talk with Brohawk YouTube channel. We'd love to have you follow. And if anybody wants me to do an intro with Jim, please just reach out to me directly. You're unsure about the whole networking thing. I'll do an intro with you and Jim. Great conversation, and honestly, you and I probably could have talked for a bunch of hours on different topics as well. So I really appreciate your time today, Jim.
Hey, Mark, I really appreciate being on. I think you're doing great things. I think the number of guests and the experience level of the guests that you have on is just amazing. I love watching your episodes. I'm thankful to be on it today. And if I can, help anybody in your network or whatever, I'd be more than happy to. So I really do appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And you have yourself a great rest of the day, and we will be having more coffee talk soon.
There you go. Thanks again. Appreciate
Excellent.
it.
Right.